Good evening. It being after 6 p.m., I'll call this Tuesday, May 11th meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. Please rise and join me in saluting the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first is approval of minutes from February 17th and March 2nd. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of warrants. Entertain a motion to approve payroll warrant number 23 for $390,233.74. Debt warrant number 1057 for $136,422.49. CDBG warrant number 1058 for $32,758.71. School warrant number 1059 for $43,673.04, and general warrant number 1060 for $298,164.38.
So moved. Second.
Motion made second. All in favor?
Aye.
Financial items. On to what? Treasurer. Postage. Do we have?
She wants to order. This time of year she orders for postage paid envelopes. And she saves on shipping when she orders them once. She has the money in her line item. She's requesting to spend $600 on those envelopes.
Oh, and that's because we put that freeze on the spending? Okay. Yeah, I think Sheila says that receipts are now coming in.
They're starting to come in.
And we're in pretty good position closing out the year, so I think we can release that.
Take off the whatever you call it.
Yeah,
the freeze. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want it to go. I don't want it to be a free for all of us.
Like anything over something has to go through us.
$1,500.
How much?
$1,500.
1,500?
Sure.
Okay.
This sounds reasonable. Just so that we don't have a big, huge expense.
Well, that'll curtail some people from. They still have to ask if it
Right.
goes.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So the treasurer postage. Planning board wants $73.50 for advertising, and $189.95 for copy paper.
Yep.
Who's that for? Just the town?
Town offices.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, do it all in one motion to approve.
I move to approve the spending for planning board advertising, $73.50, and to purchase copy paper for $189.95.
Are you against the treasurer postage?
No, I thought we were just okay with that.
Oh, okay.
And $600 for the treasurer's postage.
All right.
Second.
All right. Motion made second. Any discussion to have on that?
Nope.
Nobody? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
We have no old business, and we have 10 minutes to the adjourned poll hearing. Sign a Tier 3 application for Complete Streets funding.
That's this. It's for that presentation that we just did, just to try to get grants.
Oh, okay.
We're still working on that $10,000, right? That we had okayed. Is that what that was?
Yeah, that was the.
We're not giving them more.
No. This is to apply for grants.
Yeah.
From Complete Streets, which is Mass Highway money.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just saying that we can approvals. It looks like it's just an environmental punch list for the Complete Streets application. It looks like they've already
They've already
submitted
applied
something.
because it was due last
I think it was
Monday.
due the Friday after they did the presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think they extended it to Monday, but they were able to get it through with just Jason's signature, but they need to have your signature on there.
Okay,
So they can send it along, but they did do the application.
all right. So I'll entertain a motion to authorize signature on this form.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Beautiful. Let's see, these gonna take a little time, so. Planning board appointment? We have to make appointments?
Yep, Kim Ben as clerk, Susan Lyons, and then Jimmy Grace as alternate.
Okay,
Sue took over Jason Spangenberg's last year.
Yeah,
okay, and
So-
didn't run again, so now,
correct.
all right,
That's why we had to put Jimmy on as alternate. Cause Sue has been doing the,
CMRPC.
yeah, but what, the
Master plan.
master
Oh, yeah,
plan
master plan.
Okay.
with John Turner. So it didn't make sense to have somebody else jump in on that, so Sue agreed to try to
stay
finish that
as an
up
alternate to stay.
with John Turner, so she took the 1-year position.
Okay,
So that's what that, and Kim is our new clerk.
so it would be Sue Lyons only an alternate?
No,
No,
Sue took the 1 year left over from Jason Spangenberg that Michelle gave up.
that we've been playing the
Yeah.
shell game for 2 years with this board.
Because Michelle was voted
I gave
in.
up my seat to John Turner, and then Sue was elected in at that time. Jason was already on the board. I came in as an alternate, and then Sue was not going to run again, so I ran again, and I have Sue's seat, and now Sue is filling Jason's seat, and you don't have to remember any of that.
For 1 year. So Sue was on the board.
After the election?
He wasn't up for election. It's
No.
the rest of his term.
But it's on our agenda for an appointment, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Jason withdrew from his position before,
Like the week before the election.
the week before the election, something like that. So
Yeah.
Tara didn't have time to do anything about filling that position through the election, so.
Right,
Yeah. Bill has the letter of resignation
okay.
that he sent.
So I just want to be clear what you're asking this board to appoint. So Sue Lyons to 1 year
Yeah.
term on the board, Jimmy Grace as the alternative,
Yeah.
alternate. And that's alternate until replaced, right? I don't think that runs concurrent with elections.
Yeah, we haven't really discussed terms of alternates.
No.
Because usually you get appointed as an alternate and you stay until you actually resign or,
That's our plan.
Run.
We'll hang on to him as long as
Or
we
get
can.
forced into somebody else's empty seat.
all right. You got that?
Sure.
All right. What's the motion?
I'm sure I'll be recapping it later.
I move to appoint Kim Bent as the clerk for the planning board, Sue Lyons to fill out the 1-year term that's left from Jason Spangenberg's resignation, and to appoint James Grace as an alternate to the planning board.
Second.
All right. Motion made, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Done. 1-day liquor license for the North Brookfield Fire Pay Night Supper.
I move to approve the 1-day liquor license
Can you have them, actually, all three of you have to sign that.
for the pay night supper for the fire department.
All right. Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And somebody needs to tell Joey that they advertise pay night supper at 6 a.m., which I don't think is going to work for some people.
It's gonna be a long day.
It's breakfast.
Yeah, yeah. So it's one heck of a party day.
Start with breakfast and finish up with supper.
And then we have easement paperwork for Bell Road.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and that's just, because of the vote the other night approved it.
Yes.
So we're now authorized to sign. I don't know that we need a motion, right? Because we have a town vote
Right.
to approve.
Yep.
So I guess it's just a signing. Okay, so that's it. We got one, two. Need your signature.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
the zoning board of appeals has also discussed adding Kim as our secretary because obviously we're trying to work with the planning board and the ZBA much closer. It'd be much better for us. Tara has so much on her plate. To be a voting member and a secretary has been too much. So do you need specific paperwork on that?
No, I don't think so. No, we didn't get any paperwork from planning on any of
No.
this, right?
No.
Yeah,
Just a letter, but.
I mean, I can certainly follow up with a letter if you wouldn't mind doing the formalities tonight.
yeah, I mean, it just makes sense, everybody's here.
If she's game,
Yeah,
We already.
you've discussed it, right?
We already reeled her in.
The first time she's hearing of it.
No.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to make that appointment.
Move to appoint Kim Bent as the clerk for the zoning board of appeals.
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
Thank you.
good, done.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so I have 6:15, thereabouts.
Yeah, so.
So we'll reopen the poll hearing for the North Main Street property.
Yeah.
You have a new plan, do we have that new plan?
Yeah, you have copies there.
Yeah.
Did you go out and paint the sidewalk?
I met with the, I'm sorry, I don't know her name, but the neighbor,
Tina?
yep, and went over the location of the new pole.
Okay.
So I believe it was, instead of moving it north 5 feet, we're moving it south 6 feet.
Couple feet.
Right.
So
Yep.
we're gonna go where the white mark was.
Yep.
Yeah, because I looked,
Yep.
and that's what we had discussed.
Yeah, and did that whole stuff get, it's still,
Still a mess.
you know anything about that?
I
Clean
put
it?
notes and I told my supervisor and the overhead supervisor for this area that the sidewalk is a mess and they're gonna fix it next time they come out.
Okay, and you don't know
I
that?
sent that to Hartwick months ago.
I'm sorry.
So we'll be looking for it to get fixed.
Yeah.
If people go in the street to go around it,
Yeah, no, I saw it.
we can't have
Yeah.
that.
All right. Abutters aren't here, anybody here to be heard on the poll petition? No?
You good?
Yeah.
I'm fine, I don't care, I just want to get it done
Yeah.
at this point. I'm not really sure why we're moving it the other direction, because the property that it was in front of is the property it would have been in front of in the first place. So I really don't know why we're moving in the other direction, and I'm not sure where the property line is. We're having it surveyed for that purpose, but if that's where they want it, and you can move the pole, I don't care, move the pole.
Yeah,
Done,
the abutter wanted it for some kind of a turning thing, it was, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to us which way it goes.
I don't
so-
care either, just move the pole.
All right. All right, if there's nothing further to be said, I'll close the hearing and entertain a motion.
I move to approve the moving of the pole on North Main Street. In between 280 and 282 North Main, as drawn on this map.
Second.
You guys sign these, both copies.
All right, motion made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Done, okay.
Have a trivia night to get to.
All right, and then, Thank you. Good night. All right, beach committee is up next, looks like.
Yep, go ahead.
At least you know who you are.
It's just a, we have a problem with a member. I mean, we've had
Yeah.
2 meetings since,
Yeah.
you know,
So,
and I mean,
so if we're going to discuss an issue with a member, it's probably more appropriate for executive session.
That's what you want to do. That's fine with us. We just want to get it resolved.
Yeah. Because what's the executive session? It's
Number 2.
yeah, but
Discuss
there are 3 or 4 reasons to enter executive session. I think discussing
Character.
issues with
Yeah.
an employee probably is more appropriate for executive session.
Mhm.
So let's discuss it first at executive session, and then if it warrants an open discussion, we'll move it to open meeting after we find out what the issues are. Sound more appropriate?
Yes.
So when would that be?
48 hours notice, right? So we have to give her 48 hours, or?
Do we want her here?
For the executive session,
Yeah,
we
okay.
will give
Why don't we
the
do
option.
May 25th, the next selectmen's meeting, and I'll send her a
Yeah.
letter. Okay.
Any business pending between now and the next meeting of the board for the beach committee? You guys got meetings scheduled or anything?
Got nothing scheduled right now.
Is
Okay.
May 25th?
So don't schedule anything until after May 25th.
sounds good.
We'll do it at May 25th at executive session. Notify the parties and
Yeah.
we'll discuss it privately first.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. Moving on, the school. Mr. Lind? Ms. Tucker.
Hi.
You wanna go?
Sure. So, just wanted to acknowledge, the additional 500,000 that was added to the school budget. Appreciate the addition. Mr. Lind and I thought that we would come tonight and talk, more specifically about what we're looking at in terms of, even with the additional 500,000, that's still a $500,000 cut. So Mr. Lind has some details about things, and also, possibly some suggestions that the town could look at in terms of, obviously revenue is an issue. So things that we discussed as a possibility, just to suggest.
Okay. So thanks for having us here tonight. We haven't had a chance to talk about the budget, and certainly that is hugely important for us to engage in some conversation about how to proceed. So just to kind of move things forward in a way that makes the most sense. Currently, the proposed budget from the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom has a reduction of 8.1% to $498,000, thereabouts. And the proposed, the approved proposed budget by the school committee is a 5.67% increase of $350,000. So right now, there's a budget gap of $848,000 between those two numbers. I know that in general, people feel like the schools are not are a drain, I guess, is the best way I can describe it. And that is not uncommon in every community. Schools are, in general, the largest department in every city and town that I know of. Usually the most employees, largest organization within a town. It is, I don't know of an organization that can have an 8.1% cut and not have significant services and programs cut. And those impact kids. So when I come here to talk about that, that's what I'm focused on is how we can reduce the impact on kids, because that's ultimately what will occur. In the end, whether it's extracurricular activities, class size, reduced academic programs, that's what's going to get cut, whether it's in the actual stuff we purchase or the staff that we need to run those programs. So, so I can say without hesitation that type of reduction will result in those negative impacts to your kids. And again, they're all your kids, even if they're not yours that live in your house. And I think the long-term impact is something that we hear again and again about things like school choice. Why do kids choice out? Well, if there are no programs for kids, if there are hugely impacted programs, extracurriculars, academic, etc., parents will seek out programs for their children. That's just the truth. Every parent will do that, whatever they can for their child. So my hope was that we could think about brainstorm some solutions to the challenges that we have. And I have just a couple. I don't know even where they stand or if they're even appropriate, but I know that the school has received from Pandemic Relief Fund. We currently have $400,000 within our FY22 proposed budget as an offset through Pandemic Relief Funds. I know that the town will be receiving, I don't know the status of it yet, ARP funds, and those funds are anywhere from, I've heard, $1 million to $1.4 million for the town. I don't know if that has been thought of or considered to support the various town departments, including the school. The purpose of those funds were to make up the lost revenues. And I understand, it's a pandemic. Things have been difficult, I get it. But that was the purpose of that funding. Among other things, certainly pandemic relief efforts, vaccination, PPE, that kind of stuff. But the American Rescue Plan is, anywhere between, around $1 million. I'll just stick with that number. Will be coming to the town of North Brookfield. So I don't know if that's been considered. I will be brave and say the O word. I think, and where this really come from, the O word is override. It really stems from actually something Mr. Kiley said in the meeting the other night about a $1.5 million debt exclusion for the fire station. And he said something to the effect of 28 cents per thousand will be added as a one-time cost for residents. That's $77 for a $270,000 home. Something about like that. I'm not sure if the numbers are perfectly accurate, but in that range. Well, someone who has a $270,000 home pays about $4,000 a year. I'm not sure the $77 a year in an override would be something they would be against for $1.5 million if it was to support every town department. Because I think what I know from the schools and what I see that the Board of Selectmen does every day is try to make it work with the limited resources. And what people want are programs and services in the town to make life, comfortable and happy, and that can be police, fire, highway, library, senior center, town offices, etc. That's what they really want. And if you're telling me a $270,000 home is going to pay an extra $77 a year for 1 year for a fire station, I think for all those services it would be worth at least a discussion. Because I know from myself as a parent, that's what I would want for the school. But I'm not a senior citizen, and I know things for anyone on a fixed income can be challenging. But if I know police, fire, and senior center are something that I make use of in town, and I'm going to benefit from it, I would be more willing as a senior citizen. And again, I'm not one, so I can't necessarily speak for every individual, to look at that. Again, I can only speak for me, but I am sure for the Board of Selectmen, for the police chief, for the fire chief, to scringe and scrap to try to find the resources to give the members of our community what they want and need is frustrating and concerning. It's not frustrating because I'm not getting it, it's because students aren't getting it, because parents don't have it. And my guess is our senior center director, our police chief, and our fire chief are just as frustrated because they can't provide the programs and services, buy the equipment and supplies that they need to effectively provide the citizens what they want and deserve. I don't know the answer, but it's an idea and it's worth discussion. It's worth discussion in a town-wide way. We invite in police chief, fire chief, community members, different board members. Here, the beach committee is here. My guess is they want to do some things, but without funds they can't. And those are services for the town. I think there are a lot of smart people who could come up with solutions, whether it's look at those pandemic relief funds, whether it's think about an override. I don't know what other funds are available in town. Again, the communications I've had was first it was a $1 million cut, and then a couple of weeks later it was $500,000. I don't know where that additional money was found, but what other funds are there that we could look into to support town departments, including the schools? Again, I am not privy to those accounts, nor should I be, but I think it's worth a discussion to say how can we get the people of the community, the citizens of this town, what they want, need, and deserve in their schools and in the other town departments. Again, this isn't just about the schools, because I know every department is really skimping. That's, I know the resources are tight, but we have to talk about solutions, not just say we don't have it. In the end, I will tell you that our budget is already lean. And people can believe me or not, I'm glad to sit down with anybody that wants to come in and go through line by line with me. I am available, email me or call me. We are about as lean as it gets when it comes to school and what we purchase and what we pay for with our for programs and staffing. I'm hoping that a conversation can happen that will lead to solutions, because we haven't done that. And that's not something that is going to lead to positive outcomes. It leads to people feeling sort of polarized and not working together, pulling on the same side of the road. So what I think we all want is, again, right services, programs for the citizens of the community. And those citizens can be 109 down to 9 hours old, or 9 minutes old, or 9 seconds old. Every single one of them is a citizen and deserves our best effort. And I think our best effort is to sit down and brainstorm solutions and try to come up with something that does give the people what they want. Thanks.
All right. So a lot to unpack there.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. I mean, so the school, the $6 million operating budget for the school is not the only money that the town provides to the school. There's also almost $2 million worth of benefits that comes out of the treasurer's budget, and there's debt service on roofs and stuff like that. So
absolutely,
it ended up being 54% of overall revenue, and we share the frustration because it's not easy for us to make cuts too, and everybody's making cuts, and we only have so much revenue to go around, so everybody suffers really. So the finance committee and this board is frustrated with the revenue. About the debt exclusion versus the override, So a debt exclusion is a borrowing authority for a specific period of time. So we borrow 1.5 million, say for 15, I think it was done over a 15-year period. So the 28 cents per thousand of assessment was over 15 years. And once that is paid, it goes away. So your taxes presumably get reduced by that much. Whereas the debt override stays forever. You're now at that next level.
Yeah, I have a question. When we did the sewer project in the fall, is that a debt exclusion also?
That's a debt exclusion.
So in 1 year, we have 2 debt exclusions? So, right, we voted 2, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, when you say, oh, eventually the taxes will go down, so in 15 years, do you think there'll be another project that needs a debt exclusion?
Yep, I'm sure there will be. And that's
Right.
how they, so there's a couple coming off in the next couple of years.
Sure, so there'll always
So-
be debt exclusions.
Mhm.
Whereas if, you know, you had an override and you had, you know, okay, we're gonna go up, maybe there'd be fewer debt exclusions because we'd have more revenue to deal with projects on an ongoing basis.
But if your budget goes up by a certain percentage every year, the override isn't gonna cover that. So are we gonna have an override every year too? Because I can't afford it, I'll leave town.
I guess all I was just saying is that, you know, you have a debt exclusion, you have 2 this year, and you're saying it's gonna last 15 years for the fire. How much was the sewer?
The sewer, there was an authorization to borrow up to
13
13 million. But we're getting grants and...
Definitely, we're getting grants, definitely. That's been...
Yes,
That's,
almost 40%.
sure,
So,
okay, that's great, good to know. Seeing as I don't actually have sewer and can't hook up to sewer, but I am in fact paying for sewer, and I'm happy to do that, because I live in a town and I like to support the community, so.
Well, and I'm not hooked up to the sewer either, so I don't pay. So,
Yeah, good.
what happens if you're under a consent decree of that sort, then...
But how did we get to a consent decree? Was it because we had to defer maintenance for so long, because we couldn't afford to?
No, in this particular case, the testing procedures for a certain discharge,
Phosphate.
the phosphates, the tolerances by the Commonwealth got tighter. So they're able to test for finer particulates now. So they make a mandate that all sewer has to comply with the more restrictive controls, which means we have to upgrade. We don't have a choice, and they give you a time limit for which to comply. And if you don't comply, they fine you.
$25,000 a day.
A day, and everybody in the town ends up paying for that. So it's the choice between 2 evil. Yeah.
That was an example. I do know the difference, and I appreciate the explanation. You know, my approach is, it is a possibility. Communities have pursued overrides when it does reach that point. I'm not saying that's the right choice, but if we never have a conversation about what it looks like and what it would mean and what the right amount is and what's the payment per thousand, what does it mean for the average homeowner, whatever that is. You used 270,000 the other night. I don't remember the median home price here, but it would, I think we're doing essentially our jobs to the community members.
Well, we have entertained overrides in the past in this town, and they never, because it's the 2-step process, right? So you can get it approved at the town meeting. So for instance, the one we just passed at town meeting has to go to a vote, a ballot vote.
Yeah.
So people are going to turn out for that, and it's conceivable as almost every override, debt exclusions get passed.
The only overrides
don't.
I see that work are townwide. I mean, I think I've said that before in front of this board, is if you have just a school override or just pick the department, it tends to alienate someone, right? You know, a senior citizen who doesn't have kids in the school says, well, I can't afford that. Or if it's just for, another department, and again, I know the schools are the biggest and that's the one that it seems to fall on most, but unless we have those discussions about how to change what we're currently doing, because it's clearly, for everyone, not working the way we want it to. I mean, if you have to start approving, you know, $73 advertising because the budget's that tight, you gotta start rethinking this. And I'm presenting just the idea that it's time to brainstorm solutions that people can get behind.
So-
What's the number that you would want to override in
I
2.5?
don't know
Because
that.
you can't override 500,000 this year and then get it again next year.
I don't know the
That's it.
number. I don't know the number, Mr. Tripp. That would, to me, be something that we would talk with as a group, because clearly I don't know everything about overrides. I would never even sit here and try to tell you I know, you know.
Well, it's a one-time
this-
thing and it goes forever.
It does.
So-
But so doesn't the changes that we've seen in the world, things like healthcare jump. You guys know better than I that healthcare is growing at a faster rate than your property tax can go up exponentially, right?
And that's fair, because, and that's what's hitting us in the
Yeah,
benefits pocket
Right.
on that side of the ledger.
There are times
so-
where inflation does go higher than 2.5%. Not always, there are times it's actually below. But there are a variety of things that impact those long-term things. And to say that, and again, you guys have the historical context of North Brookfield, but Prop 2.5 was a 1979, 1980 deal. In a lot of ways, if you never change that dynamic of where you are, then you are going to fall behind, because those things like healthcare that are going at 8, 9, 10, gosh, I'm on the insurance advisor, it was originally put forward at a much higher rate, which I think we all fell over when we saw it. It will never keep up. So no matter how much we skimp and tighten our belt, you're going to fall behind, and you have to sort of reset the clock. And believe me, I don't want my taxes to go up in my home town. I don't live here, so I don't want to speak for the people here. No one likes higher taxes.
Yeah, well, we do have a significant portion of the population that's elderly and on fixed income, whereas some of the other, and I think that's a demographic that you're seeing, right? I mean, I think the
Sure.
school enrollment numbers are declining because our population is older, but.
Yeah, I mean, our demographic study said we will actually increase in population over the next 10 years slightly in comparison to other school districts around us. We had that done as part of the regionalization. NESDEC, New England School Development Corporation, they do it for those enrollment studies across the state. But your point is well taken. I mean, the demographics do make a difference within a community. But if we never have a discussion about it, and we never brainstorm a solution, and we continue to do what we've been doing, which is across every department, falling behind. And there's not a department out there that isn't. If they are getting ahead, I'm really surprised by that.
No, almost everyone, there's only, I think, one department in town that actually will be getting more in their line item this year than last year. Everybody else is down by, I mean, 2% for the police department is a heck of a lot less than 2% at that school. I mean, it's just the numbers.
I totally understand.
Matt, you got some, you want to?
Yeah, Matthew Grant, 99 Old East Brookfield Road. So I mean, I think that we're always going to have this hurdle, obviously, but I think what makes it hard for people that live in a town, such a small town, is that we look at most of us work in the private sector, right? And we don't get the benefits of, so I don't get automatic raises every year. I don't get, you know, these things that the teachers get, that the administrators get. So when you come out and say you're tightening the belt, you operate with a tight belt, you know, everything's tight. That I appreciate that, but I mean, you're talking to families who have lost jobs, who have got pay cuts over the past year. So, in your school committee meeting, you did say at the end that, okay, I'll accept this 20% stipend, and laughed and said this is...
It wasn't at 20%, it was...
I mean, I'm sorry, $20,000
Right,
stipend. So I'm just saying it's a perception thing where people in the town look at it like we're hurting financially.
It's actually a cost saving.
I understand. No, I understand.
I just want to explain, just to make
We've
sure
heard
it's
it, I
clear.
understand.
Nope, people in here have not heard it. So as a cost saving, we don't have a high school principal. Mr. Lind and Mrs. Powers co-share the principal. Their stipends is over $68,000. So just
And that's,
make that clear.
I totally appreciate that.
Sure.
He's willing to take a pay cut for that. I get that. I'm just saying perception for parents who are struggling financially, when you sit in a meeting and say, well, Mrs. Powers does most of the work, I'll just take the 20,000, she could take the 25. The perception when you're telling parents you're gonna cut things from their kids, but you're willing to take more in years where other parents have, I can tell you right now, my wife has done way more work than she's ever done, and she took less money. So it's just one of those things when you laugh about money and taking more money, and then I just find that a hard pill to swallow when you send a letter home threatening to cut things for my kids and say how important your kids, our kids are to you, and then on the flip side, you accept more money instead of standing up and being the leader and saying, why don't I spread this around to the teachers? Or that's how I look at it. I just wanted to voice my opinion.
Can I just say that he's doing 3 jobs or 2.5 jobs, so it's not like he's taking a raise for doing nothing. And I do appreciate, Matt.
Yeah.
I absolutely appreciate what you're saying. That it is,
we're in tough times financially.
Sure, it is difficult, and I completely understand that. But to suggest that they are not earning that money,
I never said that.
Well,
the perception of it is difficult.
It's hard to come ask for more money.
And he's not taking it away from his teachers. Okay?
Well, he's taking away from the kids from his letter.
Is he taking it away from the kids? So if we didn't have a high school
That's not
principal,
true, Mr. Grant.
Okay.
Ever.
That's the way I felt.
Ever.
All right, we're not going to.
No, we are, because
No.
because the suggestion is that we're not.
Mr. Lind.
I apologize.
you don't need to apologize.
No, I apologize.
Well, this is a meeting that's run by this board. Okay, so if I say
Sure.
enough is enough.
All right, gotcha.
It's a perceptual thing.
May I quickly respond?
2 seconds, just 2 seconds. And generally,
I invite anybody to come to my office and go through all the books. Really.
Yeah.
And I do get frustrated when anybody intimates that I'm doing something dishonest, and you would too.
No,
So,
and that's fair, but the one point is the perceptual issue. I get the perceptual thing, whether it's actually true or not, I doubt it very much. The one question I would have is, are there additional hours on you for doing this work, or are you doing this in addition to your other job within the same hours that you've put in?
Well, they're all additional hours, yes. I don't have time to do it during the day. I would never have time to do it during the day.
Okay.
I just want to say that, Mr. Lind is a very, very hard worker. He arrives at the school about 7 o'clock every day. He probably leaves at 6 on an ordinary day, but he's frequently there in the evenings for all kinds of meetings like this one. And since the pandemic, if he does not take time off, he is working through the weekends. He is answering emails, he is implementing plans. This past weekend, it was his anniversary and Mother's Day, and his wife insisted that he take a day and a half and not work. Okay, so and I understand the perception is it is. I do appreciate it. It is difficult. When we're talking about different salary levels, and I do appreciate it. I want people to understand that the narrative that the school is leeching money from the town, or the school is not, doing amazing things with a very tight budget. It's not true. And I don't know what to say, because, people...
Well, perception is reality. And if people perceive it to be true, then it's true to them. So...
But they don't come to the school. They don't come to see what happens.
But just from my perspective, I see 116 choice out kids.
Sure. And you know why one of the biggest reasons they're going to choice out is because the school doesn't have the programs that they want.
But you don't know that, because by your own admission, numerous times, you have never asked anybody why they choice out. It's an assumption.
We have a survey plan, don't we, Mr. Lynn?
We do.
But if you have 116 choice outs before the budget constraints that we're now talking about, you can't say that they're because of a budget constraint.
They are there because of a budget constraint. Because we are always operating on a budget constraint. And you know what? 2 years ago, right, 2019, Elizabeth Millad and I spent a lot of time advocating for changes to the way schools are funded, in particular to recognize that towns like ours, rural towns like ours, we are not the same as a suburban town or an urban town, and there needs to be a factor that includes that. What are we facing? And it's not just North Brookfield. I mean, it is literally from, you know, here to the western part of the state, except for, you know, Springfield and Amherst. And unfortunately, it fell on deaf ears, right? If, you know, if we got, I think we got, the most we got was $30,000, which is nice, but, you know. So, you know, that did prompt us to go ahead and look at doing regionalization. And I think the future of North Brookfield may lie in regionalization, but that does not take away the issues that we face, which is still, we may regionalize, we may have more programs, but we're still going to have to pay for it.
I know. From our perspective, finance and the board, it's revenue. So, like, to your point about ARP funds that you mentioned, nothing's come to us yet from the state as to what we're getting. I mean, they
process and allocations.
Right, 1.4 million's been allocated to North Brookfield. So the expectation is at some point we'll have 1.4 million. We can't put that into our budget until it has been appropriated.
Right.
So, I mean, we can't spend against it until we have it. So
that's the importance of these conversations. That's why I'm suggesting.
Can I just ask a question? Why have you not come to FinCom? You've been to more than one of these meetings. Why do you refuse to talk to the Finance Committee?
We don't refuse to talk to you.
But you have come to these meetings repeatedly and not come to our meeting.
Do you come to a meeting when we email you and say, can we set up a meeting? Do you?
Well, I'm serving on 3 boards, so I'm usually pretty busy, but I'll give it a go.
Okay. Well, you know what? We will email again, and we will try to make a better, you know, obviously, we want to cooperate. We all live in the same town.
And I feel like the perception is that you don't want to cooperate because you don't come to the meetings that we could be discussing.
Sure,
that.
Absolutely. But if we email you...
Yeah, but you don't need an invitation.
Yeah, 2018.
You guys came to our meeting, like every single time we had a FinCom meeting, there was somebody there from the school committee. I don't know if it was to monitor or whatever. This year, not once.
So
you are welcome. It's a public meeting.
I have a job. My husband has a job. I got 2 kids.
I run a company.
I'm busy too.
So do I.
Right.
And you give to the town, and we give back to the town. I get that. However, you don't. You're not going to get a personal invite. You are welcome to come.
Okay, we are welcome to come, and we will make the effort to attend. I would appreciate it if we email you and say, can we set up a meeting with all of us, that you don't tell me it's a waste of time.
Well, it's a waste of time in the sense that we have X amount of revenue. And you're going to come to us and say, you need to cut something else to give it to us. So
I don't think anyone has ever said you have to cut something to give it to us. We come to you and say, this is what we need.
Right. And you don't think the fire department needs what they tell us?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Ms. And when we were advocating to try and change the way schools are funding, I had to ask you 3 times to write us a letter. I mean, you know what?
Yeah, I doubt that very much, because I'll sign anything somebody puts in front of me for that. So,
okay. All right, fine.
And I do sign things on a regular basis.
You did write a letter finally after I ran into you at the Hannaford's parking lot.
Can I have something?
And
back to perspective on things too is, last year the teachers forgoed the raise. But now they want it this year. That's not forgoing, that's deferring it. That's not what was presented to us last year.
No, they gave up, well, for them it ends up being, what, they get a 2% step and a 2% COLA, so it's 4%. They gave it up. They're not getting that money, so they went all year long at the same rate that they were at the beginning.
Yes.
This year they'll get 8%, which brings them in the contract where they would be. I mean, that's just a function of a union thing. So they're not going to get retroactive 4%.
1 year savings.
Right? I'm correct on that. You're not going to give them the 4% that they lost out on. They didn't just defer that to this year.
So the total between the teachers and the administrators giving up their yearly increase, which FY21 to stay at the FY20 rates, was about $115,000.
Yeah.
That was a budget move to save programs. Absolutely. We did it for a year. But you can't keep going to people and say, take it again, because people have to vote. Those are things that are tied to their retirement. That's a lot to ask, and they did a lot. And they're not going to do it again, is my guess.
Well, I know as a state employee, I was furloughed for 4 or 5 times throughout my career,
Sure.
and that money never came back to me, but,
Our
that
teachers
was,
have been furloughed in the past,
it's not
and
a,
they haven't gotten that money back.
yeah, it's not a choice. When it's a furlough, it's not a
Right.
choice, I mean.
It's a little different.
And,
This was a choice.
and they gave it up freely, so I guess kudos to them for that, so.
Look, you know what, I don't like having these conversations where it's, you know, it's as if we don't want to cooperate, okay? And I apologize, you know, for not making the effort to come to FinCom meetings. I actually haven't come to that many Board of Selectmen meetings, okay? So we will, you know, going forward, we will continue to try to make an effort. And, you know, but however, we are at a point, which as you're saying, you know, there's only so much revenue. So beyond, you know, having the conversation of we all need to make cuts and tighten our belts, you know, what can a school do to help support a town, to help encourage people to move here, to encourage businesses to move here? You know, I think it's a North Brookfield has a lot of good public schools, has a lot of wonderful staff, a lot of wonderful teachers, a lot of wonderful loving atmosphere. And I think unfortunately that is lost in this conversation when it's always about, you know, it always comes down to the money or to, you know, people, oh, it's a failing school. It's not a failing school. It's a struggling school just like every other school in our region. And it has to do with demographics.
Yeah,
So.
I think Holden just took $1 million whack to their school budget. I just saw that in the paper. So, I mean, all the surrounding school districts are faced, and part of the revenue issue is the drop-off with the state revenues and with the COVID revenues. I mean, we're just seeing a decline. But I'd like to ask, because I'm struggling with the perception here, if the override is across the board, right, which I agree it would have to be, right, and not just giving it to one or the other. If that's the way you present it to the town, then how does it, practically speaking, get divvied up in the budget? Do we have to present it to the town like we're resetting this?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of different communities do it different ways. The one that this was my personal sort of one that I said, wow, that makes the most sense. They looked at the 5-year average as percentage of the budget. So, you know, you have a $100 override and you're 15% of the budget, so you're getting $15. You're 22% of the budget, you're getting the $22.
Okay.
That kind of thing, so that it was, and they used a 5-year average, so it wasn't just sort of that 1 year sort of, oh, you got a little extra because you needed to, whatever, do something, buy something. I thought that was a very sort of reasoned approach to how do you do that, and so that's the only one that I really looked at.
So you have to pick a number, right, to do the override. So what do you pick, $10 million? Override for 2.5, and then divvy it up by, and so you're gonna have that much money left over. For how many years is that gonna cover? That the override is forever.
Right, more than we are now, Mr. Tripp, I guess is what I would say, because the reset catches you up to where you are now, and 40 years from now, we'll probably be in the same position.
It's not gonna last 40 years.
Right.
Well, just $10 million.
You're right.
And that's gonna put such a strain on the elderly in town. I for one wouldn't vote for it.
I would
because of
imagine a
that.
$10 million override, since Shrewsbury just passed a $9.5 million override.
I just picked a number.
Right, no,
Nobody else
but,
will.
I mean, you know, what's the right number? I don't know. If North Brookfield is 1/10 the size of Shrewsbury, so 1/10 of 9,900,000. Like, that's just.
Because our median
That will last 2
income
years.
is like $46,000.
I think was the last number I heard for median income.
That's, I think that's the part of the core problem that we have here,
I agree.
is that we're a very poor community on a whole.
And this is where I think these types of discussions, where you bring different people in and talk about the department needs, the needs of the community in terms of demographic, in terms of the legal aspect from town council, that's what I was suggesting. Not that we should do an override or we should look at this. These are brainstorming ideas on how smart people come up with solutions to a problem that exists. There's no question there's a problem. I mean, whether it's the schools or any other department, as Mr. Kiley mentioned, are not getting essentially what what the department heads are telling you they need. And there can't be anything more frustrating for you as a board to sit there and say, in the FinCom, to look and say, sorry, we can't do that, we can't do that, we can't do that, no, you can't get that.
We depress people all day long.
It is true.
So
It's true,
Yeah.
because it's
I
not
get
there.
it, but
is this something that would even affect the budget we're discussing? Because it has to go to a town vote, no?
Yeah, it wouldn't help out with this, in the short term, it wouldn't help out with the shortfall we're looking at right now.
I understand.
But,
I'm not saying I'm not considering the whole future, I'm just trying to wrap my head around
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And
this
how
year.
does presenting that if we're gonna regionalize? How does
Well,
that
that
work?
regionalization takes a long time.
yeah, it's all long-term,
And I
long-term
want to
stuff.
point out that regionalization does not mean that we still have to pay for schools.
Yeah,
It doesn't change the fact that we still will have to
I
pay.
understand that, I'm just trying to say, how does that all work in
Yeah.
to the override? Because like, I
There
don't
are
want my
some-
taxes going up. COVID killed my husband, so I don't want, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
his work is, he's got nothing.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I do. I don't know what the answer is other than to put our heads together and, you can say, we can look at a group of 100 people and say override and some number will be for and some will against. What are some of the other solutions? I don't know.
I mean, we're a poor town,
But
and
we'll
right
never
now,
know
people are
unless we
hurting
get
from
together
COVID.
and talk. That's my suggestion.
Did you guys ever look into the solar project that we had proposed?
It's
up there?
ongoing. I've
That was
contacted
hundreds of
them several
thousands of
times.
dollars that would.
It's about a $50,000 save in year one. We are in the queue with National Grid. I don't know.
Yeah, they put a hold on all the
Yes.
new approvals, so
Yes.
we're all in a,
There was a way to get
Waiting.
around that too, though, if you.
The folks you put me in
Back
touch
metered it.
with, I've been working, I communicate with them occasionally because we met a lot when we submitted the application and then they informed me we're in the holding pattern.
yeah, they did that to
Yeah.
all projects also,
Yes.
because they're doing some kind of analysis on the
Yes.
grid.
But there was a way that they said that they could meter it differently and get past that national grid.
Or do it outside of the, oh, that's right, it was a
Yes.
direct thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's worth
That
looking
would-
into.
Should be we should
So it's the
pursue
same
that.
folks that you
Symbian.
put me in touch with, is it Peter and Chris?
Yeah.
from
Mhm.
Symbian?
Yeah.
I mean, please feel free to, if you know more about it, to email
Well, I
them
spent
and say.
4 hours with those guys
Yeah.
walking around. We looked at the landfill down
Please-
here, we looked at the school.
Please
they
feel
drew
free to email
pictures,
them
you
and
know.
say, hey, where does the school project stand on fast tracking it, for lack of a better word? I
Yeah.
don't know what it would be.
But you had signed everything?
Oh, yeah, everything's
Yeah.
submitted, we just,
It
that
actually was
holding
the, right, it was the March meeting,
Yep.
so last.
Yeah, because I think originally it was submitted as a 3-part thing, all 3 projects were part of the same submittal, so maybe if we carve out that
Let's do
from
it.
the other 2, it
yeah.
might.
I mean, I can email them tomorrow and say, hey, talk with the Board of Selectmen about some ways to fast track our project.
Yep.
Do you have, do you guys have any ideas on how to do that? If not, please feel free to talk to the Board of Selectmen. They may have some thoughts on how to do that.
I haven't
do
heard
not know
anything
if
from
they-
it for almost a year now.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we can do that. I mean, 50,000 is 50,000, right? It's
That's
something to
huge
put
savings,
back
and no
in.
matter what happens in the future, the way we structured the contract, the town will benefit from the electrical savings. So even if we regionalize, it gets metered
Oh, yeah. It's
to all the town buildings.
Yeah.
So.
And we're still not solid on our financial picture, which happens every year. I mean, it's not a surprise. It's just shocking because it's such a big number this year, but the cherry sheets, that's why we do the adjourned, because we still don't know where the state's coming down on money.
Hopefully it's not
so.
like last year.
Can I just, I'm just curious about this, actually. This is, I know in the bylaws, we have to have the meeting in May, right?
Mhm.
But we always have to adjourn because, nowadays, probably when the bylaw was written, the state is always late in getting the budget information. Is it a possibility of changing the bylaws to push the annual town meeting later so you don't have to do those 2 meetings?
Yeah, we had talked about doing that. By statute, you have to have it in April, May, June. March, April, May, or June, the last quarter, one of those months. We always pick May. That's from the bylaw. But the bylaw can be changed. It just can't deviate from the state statute, so we can do it in June. As long as you have to be appropriated by July 1.
Right. Well, so I mean, is that a big deal or no?
It's a bylaw change. It's putting in front of the town. I know we bounced around with nights because, you know, some people aren't available Wednesday, it's in the middle of the week, sometimes it goes too long, so you move it to Friday, and Friday's not a good night, you know, Saturday afternoon.
There'll be a problem with any day.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's...
I also don't know right now the approval timeline on submitting to the state for bylaw changes. I know it's like after a certain amount of time it automatically passes, but I know that they haven't really been responding to much of anything. So.
Well, I wouldn't have, you know, this would be next year or whatever. I just was curious. So.
Yeah, no, the AG's office reviews the bylaw changes.
Yeah, and I think after like 90 or
it's some, 90 days.
Yeah,
if they don't object within 90 days,
it
takes effect, but anybody can still challenge it after that. It just they lose their...
Anybody that has that much time on their hands can come see you. I got stuff for them to do. Correct.
All right. Anything else? I mean, I think as far as an override, I think you need to, if there's interest in it, then a group should form to explore it. And you could get it on a warrant, just like that water issue that was presented the other night. A resident, he did that on his own to get it in front of the town voters.
Encourage our boards, your board, FinCom, other town department heads to maybe have some type of summit to talk about our way forward. Because I think just having a group put a warrant forward is not a united sort of front of this is how we're going to proceed if it was an override or some other point. Just my suggestion, but I'll certainly put it out to the boards and the department heads to see if there's any interest.
Yep. Sounds good.
Yeah, we should meet with the different department heads and ask if you needed X amount. You know what I mean? Then we can get a kind of a handle on what each department needs. Then we can maybe have a joint meeting and at least get a solid figure. Like, we need this to be whole going forward, which would mean this increase. I think that would be the only way to do it.
For how many years though? How do you figure that? For how many years?
It would...
Or just next year?
No. We're talking a true override is an override. It's a change of the tax rate.
Right.
So, in other words, to try to calculate, you know, giving everybody a little bit more so that we can handle different increases or what have you.
So right now you're at 16%. So if you, and some, I'm not sure exactly what it is. So you go up to 18 something.
You would go up over 2.5%, which
Correct.
would be the override, exactly.
Correct. Forever.
In perpetuity, Joe.
Forever, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a reset on the revenue, right? The bottom line revenue, and that reset stays. So
that's new zero. That's
that becomes
zero.
new base, right?
You can go 2.5% from there.
Over that, right?
But then people coming into town looking at the tax rate are going to say, look, it's 18 and almost 19%. They go somewhere else and buy a house because it's too much taxes.
Right, but then it also depends on the evaluation of stuff. Obviously, if we're at an 18% here, but they're an 18% in Shrewsbury, just for round figures, we're not going to be valued anywhere near as high as theirs. So there's a lot more to
Brookfields
that.
are though, and okay, in the Braintree, Hardwick, so you'd end up losing people.
No, we need to take a look at the different rates around us and make sure that
I'm pretty sure our rates are like close to where, right? Everyone else is higher than us, right?
Yeah, I honestly don't know.
Well, it's worth exploring, Al. Worth talking.
John, just from my experience, people look at more than just the tax rate when they move to a community. I mean, if you ask any real estate agent, they're going to look at
I sell real estate.
Programs and services, right? Programs and services, you do it all.
Yep.
Programs and services available in a town. Certainly the finances are huge for any home, potential home buyer. But they're also looking at what do I get if I'm, you know, a young family. I look at the schools. If I'm maybe a senior citizen, maybe I'm looking at senior center activities and options. You know, there's a lot of factors that I think go into anybody purchasing the home other than the tax rate.
That kind of goes into the return on investment for what they're paying, right? So they're looking at their tax rate and what am I getting for it? So
exactly. You got it. Perfect.
All right.
I think it's a great idea. I appreciate you listening and thinking about it that way. And again, you know, I really do want to work together, and I do want to do the best we can for the kids of this community.
Yeah, and if that ARP fund materializes,
I hear you.
you're certainly not gonna be excluded from a bulk of that money, so,
Thank you.
all right.
All right, have a good
Great.
day. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. Can we? We need you. Mr. Caldwell? You're not on the agenda, but I heard you wanted to.
Well, yeah, if I could. I would like your permission to, one, use your email address as a gathering point for candidates for the school joint regionalization school committee.
The general selectmen inbox, you mean?
Right,
Yep.
and you know, you folks could forward it to me to my private address and stuff. The discussion is really heated up on that. I talked to the town clerk, or through messaging today, that she had talked to the superintendent, or not superintendent, the chairman of the school committee for the Quabog district, and Mr. Lynn emailed me that he had also talked to the chairman of the school committee for the Quabog district, and one common thought is that they felt that there should be one member from the school committee, which is required, but ideally a member of the Selectmen or Finance Committee, and then one citizen. And I'm all for that. I have told Jason on a number of occasions that
I move John Trevor.
It actually should be a board of five.
You shouldn't go to the bathroom, John.
Yeah.
But, you know, one of the things I said to Jason early on this was that I thought that a member of the Board of Selectmen or Finance Committee should be on that, and because there is a financial element to it that is very important. And so.
That's true.
Voluntary.
Probably
You've
good
already
practice
started.
to.
Yeah.
You should,
But it's limited to 3, so I don't know that we could, by statute, expand it to 5.
Well, we
so.
can. I was just saying,
Yeah.
when we had just private discussions that, you know, ideally a 5-member board would be better, but I didn't understand that we were also working with Warren and West Brookfield. I thought it was just our exploratory committee.
Oh, yeah, no, each
so
town's gonna.
being there's going to be 3 from each town, you know, it works out well, but
Yeah.
we should make sure that we're well armed when we go to represent our needs. To that end, if anybody is interested in serving on this committee, if they could contact the Board of Selectmen, you know, that with their qualifications or what they think would qualify them to be on it. Again, if you agree that we should have a member of the Finance Committee or Selectmen on there, and the school's going to ante up their person that they would like to serve, so that narrows it to one person that I need to appoint and or to find, and so. You know, like I said, I'm not going to do formal applications and resumes and.
So what's your deadline? When do you
I'd
want
like
this?
to have everything before Memorial Day weekend, so I can hit the ground right after Memorial Day weekend and you know, make a reference.
Okay, so anybody that's interested from the community to be appointed to the Regional Relations Study Committee,
Right.
Please send an email with your qualifications to selectmen@northbrookfield.net, and we will forward them on to the town moderator. Deadline for submissions. You want them by Memorial Day
By
submissions
Memorial Day
to you?
weekend, so that's 2 weeks, 2 weeks and change, so.
Okay, so let's say Thursday before Memorial Day weekend, because you are
that'd be the 27th.
27th?
27th.
By
Can we
May
do
27th?
noon?
Huh?
By noon on the 27th, just in case like they come in at 5 and I'm not there or something like
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Okay.
So the town offices are not open on Fridays, so deadlines for submissions will be May 27th by noon. If you're interested, May 27th by noon, selectmen@northbrookfield.net.
I'll put something up on the website, and I'll have Tara put something up on the sign and the
Okay.
Facebook page. We'll do the whole.
Great, thank you very much.
Excellent.
You're welcome.
Thanks for serving.
One other item, you saw my email regarding town meeting.
Remind me.
The last Article 16 of this annual regarding the water issues at Summer Street.
I didn't see that email. That came to us?
Yeah, I forwarded it to you. I contacted town council after last week's meeting, and that I wasn't confident in that vote.
Yep.
Because I don't have a firm understanding or a firm grounding in whether or not it should have been 2/3 or a simple majority.
Yeah. We emailed them the same issue. We
Okay.
asked for an official memorandum from town council.
Okay.
Did he give you something?
Not yet, no.
Oh.
He said he'd get back to me. I had to research further,
Yeah.
and I just was curious if you had heard anything or.
Yeah, no, I sent them, and I hadn't seen your email. I don't know, did it come to you?
I didn't see
Where'd you
it,
send
but
it
my
to?
email was not working today, so if it did come through.
It was, it would have been Monday or Sunday night.
Oh,
Sunday
okay.
night when I sent it.
I'll check. My email was frozen for like half the day today.
Okay, it was
so.
a forward, because I forwarded his response and my initial email to him. The one saving grace on this is that we are in an adjourned meeting, so if we need to revisit it, we can, under the reconsideration clause. So I'm just, again, waiting to see what he says on this, you know, and we may be able to just stay with the same vote if it's a simple majority. If not, why, we'll probably have to revisit it, so.
Well, either way, the vote was cast. Whether it's 2/3 or majority, the outcome of the vote
Will change.
will change if it's simple majority, right?
Correct.
But the vote is the vote. I don't know that we would need
That's
to.
why I say I'm waiting for him
Right.
to, his response to me was that we may need to revisit it, you know, based on the DOR seeing appropriations that aren't accounted for, raising taxes, which is a simple majority. So, but he said he'd check into it and.
Right, because my email to him, I'll forward my email to him onto you so you can see.
Okay.
And it was a question as to the difference between an appropriation
Right.
and a standalone article for funding a special project.
Right.
So if it's a funding of a special project, that's not part of the appropriation.
Right.
So they have to tell us how we're going to fund that. I just
Yeah, I'd like a
can't-
clear understanding of that too. We've had this discussion before on different projects and it seems to be a moving target and I'd like to pin it down once and for all.
Right, because that's the ask. Because my recollection was that his response that they don't have to identify where the money's coming from came in response to a motion to amend an appropriation under Article 4,
Okay.
right, which was the salaries and the regular general budget. So if somebody wants to say, I want to give $20,000 to streetlights, say,
Right.
they don't have to identify where in the budget it's coming from because it's the appropriation.
Okay.
So the funding for that would be taken up with free cash at the end of the year. So if we're out of balance by a certain amount, the free cash gets certified and then we reserve out of free cash the amount that we're short. Then we have that money that's not covering our shortfall for further appropriation. If it's not part of the appropriations process and it's a standalone article, they have to identify the revenue source.
Okay.
That's my understanding, but you're right, I think town council needs to weigh in and give
Like I
us
said,
a...
it's a moving target. We've had the discussion before on a couple occasions and it's like, I would like to see it nailed down.
Yeah, and I'd like it in a written memorandum
Yeah,
so that
exactly.
we have it.
Yeah. Here it is.
So I asked for it, but I'll forward it to you so you can see
Okay, I
it.
appreciate
Keep
that.
it
Thank you
simple.
very much for fitting me in tonight. I tried calling the office a couple times on Monday and got the machine, so.
Yeah.
So I went to my next best thing. I called Jason. Hey!
Wait, that works?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Hold on, I have to make a phone call.
Yeah, but we have...
Sorry, Jason, I ratted you out. I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
All right, so I don't see any other agenda items. Do we have any other agenda items?
No.
I got an email from Trevor with the, I should bring the contracts for waste management.
Oh, okay.
He sent me the contracts for waste management, which we had already discussed with John
Yes.
that night.
Who's the chair over there now, Trevor? Is there a chair or chair?
I don't know.
So this is the contract, and it's exactly what he said it was. They negotiated it. It's already signed by Casella. And
Weren't they gonna hold it pretty much where it was last year or whatever?
yeah, so Schedule 1 on page 1, like a couple from the back, is the fees. So, and it's what he had told us it would be. 40-yard compactor is a $75 a month rental, and then for fiscal year 2020, I don't know that. 7 of 2021 to 6 of 2022 is actually fiscal year 2022.
Yeah, that should say 20.
So that's incorrect on this page. But it's $240 for the haul rate, $89 a ton disposal in that first year for solid waste, and then construction debris is $97 a ton. But with the cost of lumber, maybe we should sell it ourselves on the open market or something. Make some
Pull the
money.
nails out of it and sell used 2x4s.
Everybody's smart enough, they're not throwing them away.
Anybody over a certain age knows it is.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I'll call somebody with help.
So do you want to review this and sign it at our next meeting, or are you?
Do we have to see the old one? Because it seemed like he said they were staying pretty close to.
Yeah, that's
where it
why.
was, but I can't.
Because we had that meeting, we talked to them at length about it. It's their negotiations
Right.
to have. I don't know that we would add any.
Well, it's what he said it was gonna be, so I'm okay with voting for it.
Yeah. Are you okay with taking it up? Or do you need to?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the contract.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so I guess ask Trevor if he has the original,
Okay.
because these are just, he forwarded me a photocopy of it, so
Okay.
if he has the original, we'll put original signatures on the original. All right, anything else? Public comment period is the,
You guys look great tonight.
Yeah.
You noticed my new shirt?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Styling.
Nice shirt, Joe.
Mindy said they've seen those 3 already that are in the closet, so she bought me a couple new ones.
I'm looking for the comeback of the
Tell her it worked.
big black clown tie that you wore that one time.
Oh, I'll never wear a tie again. Because I was bullied the whole meeting.
All right, so,
Thank you.
public comment, anything else? No, we good? Everybody else good? All right, I don't see, Water Department flushing, May 3rd through May 21st. Do we have an announcement thing in here, is that?
It just says on the back of this that they're flushing it, that's all.
Yeah,
Nothing.
we need to put it on the Facebook page where they are every day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have it,
But I don't have that,
written out
so I
for
don't know.
Last time, but I left it in that folder. 'Cause we
Yeah,
never
he
got
puts
to do
every morning
announcements
what
last
students
time.
they're doing.
I didn't,
Yeah.
he never told me because I don't have Facebook.
If you go, yeah, their Facebook page, they update every day where they're flushing.
Yeah.
And you can call the water department if you have questions, and also call the water department to make an appointment to have your meter changed.
If I see the water running down the road when I drive by, I just go out there. 'Cause I don't know what they are.
You go through it, there's your power wash.
Yeah.
I have a question. You know the ditch in front of my house? Who do I talk to about that?
Brian, I think will take it down.
yeah.
Is it the highway department
not
or
highway.
the water department?
What's
'Cause I
wrong
have-
with the ditch? What's,
Well, we wanna, the water keeps coming over now, cause the ground is filled in, so we wanna dig it back out.
The highway.
Cause it
On the
has,
highway.
under the driveway, it has the culvert, but it's all filled, so.
Yeah, that's
So
highway,
wash
that's,
With the sand gets caught
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the culvert.
And that's why, like, there's always, the water doesn't even come down to it and go in it. It comes through my yard. I have 2 pipes that come through the whole yard that goes in it. And then the water from the road going around the corner comes in.
yeah,
But
and this
we used
storm,
the backhoe. I was like, we were just gonna go out and just dig it up a little bit and throw some stone in there.
yeah, because
didn't
Mr. Arnold
think
said
we
that
had
the
that.
other night, that we won't allow him to touch it. Well, first of all, the culvert that he's talking about is in the middle of his backyard, so we don't have any control at all over whether he digs that out or doesn't dig it out, so.
Didn't they have it dug up?
Huh?
Didn't they have it dug up?
They had it dug out to look at it to see what it was, so. So saying that we told him he couldn't touch it is
You get it
Yeah,
open,
mine
touch
is
it.
just the darts filled in, just from all over the road, we did, and
Just pull it
weeds and
out.
stuff, and- So it is, I just wanted to, I didn't know, because of the highway, if it was the highway or the water department.
It's the highway, it's drainage, roadside drainage is the highway, so contact them, and if they
We'll do
don't,
it, I don't-
yeah, if they don't respond, then just dig it out and make it clear.
I'll talk to Jason.
He'll put it on the list.
You can't,
Yeah, you'll get it sometime 3 years from now.
I mean, you can't damage it and say, I
No,
don't want
we
this
just wanna
culvert here and rip
just
it
a little
out.
bit of it out, just, you know.
Yeah,
Take my culvert.
And then right in the middle is the rotten telephone pole that they haven't come to replace yet.
I thought they had it flagged.
That's the.
They had it. They
'Cause they
replaced
did the
all the
other-
other ones on my road,
They
but
did the other two, and I saw that one
How'd you
flagged.
make that?
I don't know what I meant,
You
but
gotta call the grid
they
and
came
call
out
us.
and they did the road and then they never came back.
You just want a double pole in front of your house, I know.
No, the whole bottom's rotted
I
from
know.
sitting in the water.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just like, that's my power. We lose power now.
When it comes down, you'll get it replaced.
all right. Any other business? Anybody else?
Yeah.
I'm getting hangry, so.
You didn't look over here, but that's okay.
John's feelings are hurt.
Yeah, second only to Joey Hallway. Go ahead.
He's gonna be short. Literally, he's talking about his height every time he says, "Oh, he's short."
See,
It's
there
an
you go.
inspiration statement.
There you go.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion made, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Super.